going to bring the meeting to order. The time is 4:06. The date is July 28th, 2021. This is the Historic District Commission special meeting. And we'll take attendance. So, Darren, you want to go first?
Darren Raymond Locke, Commissioner.
Jen?
Steve Holohan, alternate commissioner.
And I'm Adam Claver, Commissioner. And absent today is Chris Shea, Art Gravanis, Rosina Negron, George Clark, and Alyssa Stack. I think I got everyone right.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Did you say George Clark?
on the agenda tonight? Yes, I did. Yeah,
okay.
George Clark. So we are here tonight to discuss the handbook and propose changes and any revisions. So I don't know, should I, do we need to pull up a, or do you want to share the screen that you had with the markups on the side, or I can do that too? I have that.
Sure, I can share it.
Okay.
Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. Whoops. Not used to doing this on WebEx, so just give me a sec. All right, so
So I think, I mean, I had some comments just to start off.
sure.
Like in the very beginning, I mean, I think that the book, just one of my observations just from, looking at it for years, is that there are typos in it,
Yeah.
quite a few typos. It's not paginated correctly, or at least like it's not referenced, like some of the, I think most of it is, but like in the table of contents, I think there's something in there that I saw that wasn't keyed in correctly, like for instance, signage.
Yeah.
Maybe I changed that already. I think I did change that. But then on page 6, you can go to page 6 on yours.
Yeah.
Quickly, just see
I'm just making notes as we talk. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see. It says I want to use my building for commercial purposes. Do I need historic district commission approval?
Oh, I see.
Signs off on the completed project, and then it repeats itself.
Yeah.
I think those are two. That's just exactly the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that should just be removed. You had a note there. What did that say?
Final inspection. One of the things that in other historic districts that they do is that they have a final inspection once work is completed, just to make sure that they are they've done the work to what had been okayed by the commission. So I just didn't know if that was something that the commission wanted to think about. It's usually a 2-second thing. Somebody has the plans in front of them, drives by, signs off on it. There's not usually a problem. And it's just something other commissions do just as a final check.
And one of the commissioners does it.
Any of the commissioners can do it. It just, I think how it gets established is that there's just a simple vote saying, the commissioners authorize anybody on the commission to be able to do that. But that's something I would just double check with the town attorneys. I know in Westport, any one of the commissioners can do it. It's just whoever has time.
Okay. Yeah, I know at the moment, I think it's set up that the building department oversees but I'm not sure if we can change that or what, I don't know what the deal is with that.
Okay.
I actually, when I was talking to the town attorney about some other issues, we discussed the way that, he asked how it works, and I told him, and also I told him that, the building department really doesn't do its job because they're overwhelmed with the stuff they have.
Yeah.
With respect to the Historic District Commission, they don't do their job. What I mean? They don't look at anything from historic standpoint. They just all they do is they make sure that it has approval from us, but then after that, they don't check to see what they've
Right.
done, even though that they're supposed to.
Right.
So,
And
and he was like, I can't believe that. That's ridiculous.
yeah,
But I know that
I
the
mean,
building department has changed. It has a new head building inspector. So it's change of guard. So hopefully we can get them to do their job.
so the problem lies in, the levying of fines. If somebody's out of compliance, doing a final inspection allows the commission to see something that has not been done up to the standards that had been approved,
Mhm.
and shows people out of compliance much quicker. So you're not getting somebody who finished work 6 years ago suddenly getting brought to the commission saying that's AZAC, it should have been wood, et cetera, et cetera. You see it much quicker and it's done in a more timely manner. So if the fines are going to be something that is going to be more a part of our discussions, then I would really suggest looking into the final inspection side of things.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's to have the commission do it makes all the sense in the world. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't take a whole lot to do,
No.
especially
And
if you can delegate to different commissioners to do it and spread it around, and it's not a big deal.
yeah, so when I was at Westport, it was a little bit of a different situation because I was staff rather than being on the commission. But one of the things that was also really good, that looked good for CLG purposes, is keeping track of that. This came before us as a COA. This is how it was voted. This was the outcome. This is when the final inspection was done. So this COA is now closed in our heads. So it shows that we're keeping tabs on what's going on in the historic districts just a little bit closer, and not necessarily to any detriment of the homeowners. It's only to their benefit, because if there's a problem, it comes up much quicker than, some of the other things that have come before the commission in the more recent months.
Karen, you're saying that the Westport Building Department was doing that final check, or is?
In Westport, they do final inspections, yes.
Oh, good. I didn't realize that.
And
Good to
other that one I'm just picking on because I know it very well because I
Right.
worked for them. But
Right.
there's other HDCs that I can think of that also do final inspection type deals. It also sort of depends on how it was set up. The HDC was set up within the town, because sometimes a zoning officer in P&Z does the check, or sometimes the building inspector.
right.
I think that's how it works. I think in New Canaan. It just depends. It just really depends on what suits how it was set up in the states and the town charter, how it was done with the ordinances, et cetera, et cetera. But it's something that I think always is good to keep in the back of your mind,
Right.
just to make it run more smoothly.
But this sentence stating here, the building official is required. It seems like whoever wrote this thing intended that the building department sign off on the completeness of it.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
So even just, and then the next page,
Page
this is
7?
something, page 8, I'm sorry, page 8,
Oh, okay.
turning the page.
Okay.
This is the requirements for the application,
Mm-hmm.
which have sort of changed. Now, I'm not sure, I feel like, in the past, we had 4 copies of all the drawings, the complete application submitted.
Yeah.
Which I think is ridiculous to have that many copies, because we end up throwing 2 of them out,
Right.
And so right now I have I've revised the application form to say two copies, 2 hard copies, because we need 2 hard copies. One goes back to the client and one goes to our records. So, for our records, and then the other two. One was supposed to go to the building, but that they don't want it, and I don't know what the other one was for. So they get basically thrown out. They do get thrown out.
Does
And
P&Z
then we
keep
have
track
one
of any of
online.
this?
They
Does
just sign
P&Z
off,
get a
They just
copy?
do no. They just
No.
get it.
Okay.
They put a stamp on the site plan for every application. They have to go
Mhm.
through planning and zoning, or the zoning department, just to get zoning approval. Just make sure they're in compliance with whatever they're doing. But that's it. And they
Right.
don't see it ever again.
Right.
So my thinking is that we revise this to go to two hard copies, and if we, when we get out of this pandemic mode of virtual meetings, the two copies, one could be at Pequot, and one could be at the building department, I guess, and maybe the chairman doesn't need to have a copy. I don't know, or maybe we just put one out there because it's online. We can always put it online still.
Yeah.
As PDF,
Yeah.
require that one PDF, which I think is actually useful because it creates an archive online of each application. And I put the certificate of appropriatenesses in there as well after after the meeting. So,
Right.
I feel like it's a great sort of archive where you can go back and look at that meeting and look at the applications and the certificate of appropriatenesses and the minutes, everything's there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, this 4 copies sounds like 19th century.
It's a lot.
Probably.
It's a lot of work to process it, especially
Yeah.
when you get a lot of applications.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay. I don't know if
Listen,
that requires any sort of approval. Like, I mean, we can just make these changes through the commission, right? And
Yeah.
vote on
I
them
mean,
and decide
the only approval that you would need, sorry, I don't mean to keep interrupting. There's a delay on my end, so I think you're,
okay.
No problem, Jerry. Please.
the only approval that we need for things like that, I don't believe that there's any basis in the the Connecticut state statutes on how many copies we need. So I think all of this
There's
just
nothing in
goes
there about that.
through. Yeah, this all would just have to be approved by the commission when that handbook is finalized
Yeah. It's just
through a public hearing.
our
obviously.
procedures. We decide on our procedures.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
One thing with the applications that I just in general would find really useful is if there were pictures of the property, like photographs included. I find that I very often have to, even though I drive by them, I don't always remember because I might have driven by them two weeks before the meeting because I might not have time the day of. So if there could be photos of just the property put in, it would really help me. And for things like fences, I always find it really helpful to have a picture of the property looking up the street and down the street so you get what's surrounding the property, because then you can avoid like people having two different types of fences abutting each other and having some sort of visual issue within the historic district, just for reference purposes.
Yeah, that chap who came
Yeah.
in last hearing with photographs of those fences was very helpful. Good.
Yeah. And then you're avoiding
Photographs and
bringing
also-
additional materials to the meeting that nobody else has seen from the public beforehand. It's just rolled into the application.
Yeah, it's a good idea. The other thing is, Jack Franzen mentioned, maybe just emailed it to me, but it would be nice to have a description of the property. Like every applicant should give a little description of the property, whatever the year it was built and whatever history that they might have on it. I mean, he's kind of a history nut and he likes to, maybe go overboard a little bit too much on telling all the little details that he finds interesting about a house. But it's nice to, the commission should be educated on the different homes in the district, and it's nice if the applicant could do that, help us with that. But, maybe that's asking too much. I don't know.
I think that's
again,
asking a lot
just trying to get.
personally, but there's
Historically,
no
I think-
reason why they shouldn't. I mean, all of these houses are written up in the local historic district nomination, so there should be some sort of
Yeah.
description about them, regardless. That even if that's just something we attached to the application in the
True.
packet that gets sent out to the commissioners or just posted online, that would be helpful. But I think that is asking a lot from the homeowners themselves, because many of these people are
Yeah,
moving
yeah.
into the district and don't necessarily know what local historic district means or the process.
Not to
Especially
mention, it's
now.
hard enough to get a complete application. Yeah. And it's hard enough
Well,
to get a
that
complete
too.
application to begin with. So,
Yeah, that too.
so. Okay. So,
Adam, I had a comment on page 2.
on page 2.
Yeah.
Jim, it's so hard to hear you. Maybe it's my end.
Can you hear me now?
He's kind of.
That's better. That's better.
Better? Thank you.
Yes.
On page 2, you have this statement that
Karen, is there any way you can make your screen bigger?
Is that better? Too much?
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, that we will
Are you talking about the screenings, Jim? Because I was about to bring that up too.
consider the view as it would be without any screening created by trees,
Yeah.
bushes, shrubs.
Yeah.
That contradicts what we say later about screening counts.
I do find while I do sometimes wonder if screening is used in a way that it shouldn't be, because we should be considering everything if landscaping wasn't there. So what's viewable from a public way, street, or place? Should the trees
Right.
all be removed? Should all the plantings, all the land, because all of that stuff is not things that we regulate, and they are subject to change.
Right.
And the trees can come down in a storm or a microburst, and people come and rip bushes out. I know I did it with my house. So I think that's something we have to be very careful is thorough throughout the document and consistent throughout the document. And as Jim said, I believe that there are a couple of points where there are sort of, they might not be conflicts, but they're worded in such a way they seem like conflicts, like they're contradicting each other.
Well, I think looking at that sentence in evaluating visibility on page 2 with page 8, screening utilizes such a manner as blending the natural environment. But that's a way of shielding the offending feature. On page 62, the commission may require planting to screen items that are visible in the public way.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things that I noticed too.
That's a direct contradiction with
Mhm.
it will be evaluated as if there were no screening.
It is a contradiction, but we have to accommodate people with air conditioning units, generators, pool equipment, stuff of that nature. And the only way to hide it in some cases is to screen it.
I agree with you.
I
completely agree with you. But if that's how we're going to operate, we have to get rid of page 2, third paragraph.
The third paragraph, the evaluating visibility.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
from the general statutes, that's why I ripped the paragraph out of the general statutes in terms of what jurisdiction is, because the HDC can render advice on tree planting and screening and all that stuff, but we cannot require it. We can't require landscaping. We can't say anything about landscaping. So in terms of hiding units and whatever, the question is, do we talk about fencing?
But you're breaking up, but page 62, the commission may require planting. So if the general statutes say we can't require, then page 62, that's gonna go
General
away.
statutes, chapter 97A, 7-147C, subset J, says the HDC can render
Right,
advice
okay,
on
good.
sidewalk.
You're breaking up, Karen, I didn't get that.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I'm not moving. Adam, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Oh, okay. So there's in the CGS, in the historic district part, there's a section that says HDC can render advice on sidewalk construction and repair, tree planting, street improvements, and the erection or alteration of public buildings not otherwise under its control where they affect historic districts. I do not believe that landscaping is something that we have direct authority and jurisdiction over. I could be wrong. Double check that with the town attorney, but in most other towns, landscaping is not something the HDC can require or regulate.
Understand, but page 62 says we.
Oh, I know that's
We make a
that's a problem, I think.
Yeah. Okay,
Just because it's in here, Jim, doesn't mean that we actually have the right to do it.
right, no, I completely agree.
You know,
But
it was,
I think you
it's what
highlighted
they
that based on your
we don't have
comments.
the right to do it. We can't have a sentence saying that we can require.
Okay, so this is a question for the attorney. Okay.
Yes.
Hang on.
I know in 3 or 4 other towns that I've dealt with the HDC, none of them have jurisdiction over landscaping. They cannot require landscaping. They cannot make them do plantings. They cannot tell them to take out plantings.
Thank you.
And if we don't have jurisdiction over plantings and we don't have the right to say that they have to screen certain things, then I mean, I guess we have to. I mean, I prefer to see screening than a fence in most cases.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
So,
I think, I mean, there's certain things that, there are certain structures
So
that
how
the
do we deal
HDC really cannot say no to unless they're really going to detrimentally affect the home, like solar panels and things like that. I think
Yeah.
the general idea is to give the HDC enough leeway to work with a homeowner to try to find the least obstructive place or least obtrusive place to put things like air conditioning units, generators, and that kind of thing. Sometimes there's no way to avoid where it has to go. And that's something to work on ways to deal with when they come up.
like, here's another issue: is pool fencing. A lot of times we'll approve a chain link fence that's buried in a hedge. We wouldn't
Right.
approve the chain link fence unless it was buried in the hedge.
Yep.
Right.
So-
And that's one of those things that when I've been on the commission is kind of always kind of like, it always worries me because if a new owner gets that property and rips out the hedge, then you're stuck with this chain link fence that is
Yeah.
probably not appropriate for that district. And there are other types of pool fencing that may be totally appropriate that won't require a hedge and be visually as okay in the district as something else.
But in most cases, I think you'd rather see a hedge than any fence.
Oh,
Sure.
yeah.
A pool fence anyway, because they're typically not very attractive. But I mean,
That's
that's
ironic
something
that-
that, now since we're just bringing that up, I think well, we'll have to get the fences another time, but I mean, like addressing pool fences is, I think it's sort of like a vague part in our handbook, you
Yeah.
know, like, so, and I guess the question is, I guess, again, back to the attorneys, the screening, how far can we go with the screening? Oh, hey, Rosina. So 4:30 and Rosina and Ron has joined the meeting. Um,
How are you? Good to see you.
so,
And just before we move off page 2, there's certain terms that to me as an archaeologist mean something very specific. So when we say earthworks and how an earthwork is a structure, I think that needs to be a little bit better defined, because an earthwork to me is something probably very different than it is to most other people.
what do you interpret earthworks to be?
It's usually, in the type of archaeology I do, usually a defensive structure with a big ditch in front of it, which I don't think most people
Oh.
are putting in front of their houses. But are you talking about a man-made berm for rain purposes?
Yeah,
Is
berm.
it like against a flood? Then I think that maybe there's better types of wording that could be used in those cases
Okay.
than earthwork. That's very vague to me, personally.
It is vague, yeah. And what is it in reference to? Screening?
It says
or
on
structures
page
that are
2,
non-
yeah.
earthworks.
This is
Well,
walls
you know
and
what
earthworks
earthworks
or
would, you know what
structures.
earthworks, I think would, earthworks, like remember at the end of Harbor Road, when that area was, the riprap was all ripped up?
Yep.
They took
Yep.
that little
Yep.
park area.
Very
No,
well.
I wasn't
very
here for
well.
that, but
Oh, you may not have been on the commission there. It was a big deal, and the whole, the town, not the town, but some people in the town got their pitchforks out and got a petition together, and they came and it was during a public hearing, and they, were trying to stop them from rebuilding this area at the end near by the town pier. And
okay.
at the end, and I mean, the thing was infested with rats, and it was terrible. And they were
Right.
they're giving land to the town, and what they proposed was completely appropriate, and because they replaced it basically as it was with the same stones and everything, but they put a concrete foundation structure underneath it to shore up the seawall.
Yeah.
To create this little, grass sitting area for themselves.
Yeah.
So that I think would be considered earthworks for sure.
Okay. All right. See, that's something totally different than when I hear earthworks, I think of like the defensive ditch, and then I think about 4 other different things. So if we're talking about berms or seawalls or some other type of protective type of thing, then I think we just need some better phrasing there, because earthwork is just so vague.
I think it might also refer like retaining walls, but I guess walls is in there already. So
Or terracing, maybe even.
terracing, yeah, could be. Yep.
Okay.
Well, yeah, if we should come up with some ideas anyway of other words to use if you think that one's sort of vague.
I personally, but if nobody else agrees with me, that I will defer to the rest of the commission on that one. That's just because I'm an archaeologist, like that word means a lot to me.
Right. Yeah.
It's a trigger word.
Earthworks, moats.
Moats.
Yes. Okay. I think we can move on from this. I think.
Okay.
Well, how did we leave the contradiction? Someone's going to talk with the town attorney?
I think we're going to, first I'm going to talk to the town attorney and find out what he says about the, whether we're stepping outside of our box here by telling people they have to use screening or not, whether we have that right, if that's in our purview or not.
So on page 3, there was a couple of things that came up. Jim had a, a comment
yeah.
about requiring, where does that go? Hold on.
Any such discussions must occur prior to
Prior
the
to submission of the application.
submission.
And I think it's come up a couple of times, or I've brought it up a couple of times in previous commission meetings, this idea of the pre-application and it not being, I know it's sort of in the handbook, but it's not really outright discussed. And I think it's something that could save the commission a lot of time, because there's been, for instance, I guess it was last month, somebody came with a request to put something in the yard and it wasn't visible from any street whatsoever. So it really isn't something that the commission should have been reviewing. Had they come to the commission and said, I would like a pre-application before I go through the formal process of putting all this application material together and getting all these plans and these whatever else and pulling all the stuff, this isn't visible. They come to the public hearing, it's a 2-second conversation, or it doesn't even have to be in a public meeting because it's not, it's public, but there's no discussion. That could have saved a lot of time,
Yep.
you know, and it doesn't have to go
And
to
we- and
it. It doesn't get voted on.
No, yeah, we do, I mean, have pre-application meetings, but it's not in the
Yeah.
handbook. It doesn't say that, but we do. I mean, I've done plenty of them. And you just do it with two commissioners at a time, so you don't have a quorum. And,
I don't think it matters if you have a quorum, you just can't vote on it.
oh, really?
So,
I was under the
yeah, so
impression we've always done it where we haven't done it. We've always done it with 2 people, and then we'll rotate out. I mean, maybe we don't have to, but we've always done it that way.
So I'm just going to tell you what some other places do, and I'm just going to throw it out there, and you can ignore me if you want. Totally cool.
Okay.
Some other places, they like having as many commissioners at the pre-application meeting as possible. There's no public comments.
Okay.
There's no formal application to vote on. And it's a place where the homeowners can really ask whatever questions they need to and get as much feedback from the commission as possible. So for example, the Pequot Harbor, Pequot Boat Club. They were doing all that stuff with the air conditioning units and how many they needed and putting it on top of the door and the portico and all that stuff. If they had come during a pre-application meeting, we could have had discussions with them before they went through the process of putting in a formal application, getting denied, or, you know, being told we need more information, or can you decide on this, or have you considered that? That's all stuff we could have sussed out in a pre-application meeting without needing to vote on it. And then by the time they came, they would have had like a really solid, it just streamlines the process a little bit. And I think that would be something that would be to the homeowner's benefit to have really spelled out in the handbook.
Yeah, I agree with you. In that particular case, we did have sort of a pre-application meeting, not formal, but just I had discussions with the club regarding them, and they chose not to really listen to what I had to say. So
well, I was just picking on them because it was low hanging fruit, and I've seen them a couple of times. I haven't been on the commission long, but I've seen them quite a lot because they've had a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
But I think that process for some place like that, an institution like that, an organization like that is very helpful because there's a lot of stakeholders that are all, you know, involved. But it's also very helpful for individual homeowners who can, you know, get ahead of a problem when they see it welling.
100%. Yeah. I actually met someone on Monday for a pre-application sort of. It was very informal, but she had some ideas and ran it by me, and and she's done it in the past, and it does help. I mean, it's for some things it doesn't require more than just me or one other person because it's pretty straightforward. Roseanne and I actually met with someone on Westway Road too, not too long ago, a few weeks ago, regarding an issue, and so yeah, but I think it should be in the handbook more and clearer, because I'm not sure everyone's aware that it's available.
Now, some places actually notice for a pre-application meeting just because it's of interest to
Oh.
neighbors and stuff, even though there's no public comments.
Okay.
I don't know if that's something we should check with the town attorneys to see how that should be handled, just
Yeah.
as a matter of precaution.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was one of the things that I think I made a comment here, just saying, this is the idea of a pre-application meeting, and I think that's a really good thing to kind of spell out in more detail. The other thing on page 3 is the idea of temporary versus permanent.
Yep.
I don't know. I haven't been on the commission long enough to have seen anything come before the commission that is a permanent or a temporary anything so far. So I don't know. This might be just me just not knowing. Is there any stipulations on people who are going to have this type of lighting up for 30 days or less do not need to come before the HDC, or people who have a tent up for a particular party or a lawn sign for 10 days or less don't have to come to the commission? Is there anything in place like that? Or is everything expected to come before the commission, whether it's going to be up for 2 weeks or 9 years?
Yeah, well, I mean, recently I just the Southport School,
Mhm.
down in the village, they wanted to put up a tent for like a temporary tent. It's kind of visible from Center Street, but not really.
Mhm.
But then there's another one they have in the parking lot that I discovered when I went to look at the property. I just had them write me a letter stating that they wanted to put this tent up for how and for how long, just so we had a record of it.
Mhm.
And their intention is to put it up for basically a school year, and then it's going to come down.
Right.
So that's how I handle that.
Okay. I know in the
I'm
summer,
not
for
sure.
example, people like to put up fairy lights in the backyard because they're having yard party. I mean, it's a little bit less right now because of the
Yeah.
pandemic, and Delta variants and stuff. But when people put that kind of thing out, it just seems a little excessive to me to have them come in for a COA for something that's going to be up for 30 days.
Yeah.
I mean, the school tent is a
Oh,
different thing that's going to be up for 365. So that's a longer period, which I could understand if the commission decided that justifies the COA. But for things that are going to be up for 30
Right.
days or less, I find that kind of a bit excessive to come in a lot of times.
There are also things like storage units that come and stay, like it's
Sorry, I'm having a really hard
What?
time hearing you, Jim. What did you say?
storage unit, portable
Storage units, pods. Yeah,
Those require a COA.
pods
Oh, you
do.
mean like a pod?
Yeah,
No, I guess a pod would not. No,
Okay.
that would be temporary. But I mean, I would say, here's the thing. First of all, it's very difficult to police these the districts when somebody puts a temporary thing in. It's clearly temporary if it's a pod. They're there storing their furniture or whatever for something they're doing to their house. But by the time we find it, or hear of it, it's like too late probably.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, same with the lights. It's like if we find it, okay, then we can say something. But
Agreed.
it's so tricky. These things. It's like, hey, it's like, do you really want to chase all these things down?
Right.
I think
Right.
if we
And I
could put it
mean-
in the.
Mhm.
It's nice that it's nice. Like for instance, with the school, I think it's like to have them come in for a certificate of appropriateness to put the tents up. They have to come in and for another one to take them down. It's
Yeah.
like it's a temporary structure, and their intention is to have it for the school year. As long as we have a record of it, I think that's the most important part. When it comes to these temporary installations, if they're going to be temporary, I guess, then it's up to me or whoever's the chairman to keep track of it. But I guess by the end of the year, you're going to see this. You're going to wonder what the deal is with the tent, and all you have to do is look into it, I guess, and figure it out.
I don't know that I agree necessarily about having them not come in for a COA for something that's going to be up for a year. Because I mean, you wouldn't have to necessarily get them to do a COA to take it down. You could just have it part of the application. This is going to be down by this certain date, and then it becomes like a final inspection thing, and you just go out and make sure it's down by June 12th. But in this particular case, I highlighted this because under the section on page 3, it says what activities require me to get a certificate of appropriateness from the historic district. It says any exterior changes, including re-roofing and alterations, hardscape, and temporary or permanent lighting. So I was just curious, like, what the bounds of temporary were, and at what point is something not temporary versus longer term, and where's the defining boundary of when you need a COA. Because I mean, we could put a caveat in there saying if something's going to be up for 30 days or less, just shoot us a quick email and let us know this is going on and it's fine. Or, there could be some stipulation.
Re-roofing, it doesn't require a COA unless you're changing the material.
Right. Well, that's a whole different, that's ordinary maintenance and repair, which is, outlined in the CGS too. So that I don't see that in the same, but I understand what you're saying completely. And then, I mean, even with
roofing with certain colors of shingles.
Where are you looking?
I mean, a lot of this stuff is just like comes to the chairman, and that I'll get a call, and I have to make a decision on the fly, I guess. But
yeah,
it'd be nice to have more, a little bit clearer as to exactly what's required. I mean, typically it's an exterior changes, yes, including, well, I mean, you don't have to say roofing, just any exterior changes in appearance.
Well, I mean, ordinary maintenance and repair. Yeah, I mean,
I don't know why temporary lighting would require a certificate.
I don't know either. That's why I said, is there like a 30-day? Like if there's 30 days, it doesn't need one. If it's going to be up for 142, like, do we need one? It's just something worth clarifying. I mean, granted, remember, I was coming in at this not having read the handbook before.
Yeah.
So I came in with fresh eyes without any background. And then the other thing is what work does not require COA. Exceptions include repainting. That one I would have a problem with personally, because repainting and freshening up paints are two separate things. If somebody's repainting their house and they're stripping down to the historic material, I would argue that needs a COA. Okay. Because you're risking damaging the historic material by how you're stripping the paint off the house.
Okay.
So like if somebody let's say I had designated my house, we needed to repaint because we had lead paint on the outside of the house. We didn't do a full abatement, but we removed the pieces that were flaking in a way that protected the historic materials. Now, if I had been designated and I came before you and I said, I want to repaint and we're going to sandblast the whole house, that's something that would potentially really adversely affect the historic materials. So I think that the HDC should review that. But if somebody's going, I'm just literally repainting the house, there's no sanding involved, we're painting it purple with blue polka dots, that's out of HDC jurisdiction.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, if they wanted to change the shingles in kind, they could with just a repair order. So
yeah.
So, I mean, from that perspective, whereas if they wanted, let's say, and the shingles don't necessarily have to be, rotting, they just have to be in poor shape.
yeah.
I mean, there's, but I see what you're saying.
I mean, because there's a number of houses within the historic districts that are brick. So, I mean, that raises the question about
Yes.
painting brick, repainting brick, what to do if the paint is wearing off the brick, how best to preserve the brick, because brick is best not painted. But that's one of those
Yeah.
situations where if they need to strip paint, that is something that the HDC should review the manner in which they're going to remove that paint, because it could very well adversely affect the structure and
Yeah.
cause further damage.
And I think that should be addressed specifically towards brick houses.
Yeah. And then, I mean,
Oh,
even
I could go with that.
part of my house has old clapboard siding. So like even we had to treat that very carefully when we were removing paints, because we could have damaged it and it would have damaged the building envelope.
Mhm.
And then there's always the question of Rhino Shield and whether or not that's a good thing that we even should talk about, because it changes the dew point in an old house, which then causes all sorts of other issues. So, I mean, these are just things I'm throwing out to think about.
Yeah.
But they came across to me as being not well addressed in the handbook.
Yeah. Not really addressed. Yeah. Okay.
I'm just going to scroll through because I don't remember. Oh, this was just what happens. We should, I thought we should put in something if somebody does not appear at the HDC meeting to represent a particular building, what happens? I guess we just pass over that and it moves to the next meeting. Is that?
No.
No?
It gets voted on, and it'll get denied because nobody
Got it. Okay.
presents, and then they
So
have to resubmit.
Okay. So there's no tabling it. It's just deny without prejudice, or just straight out deny?
Yes.
Deny
without prejudice.
Okay. Final inspection we spoke about. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through because it's been a little while since I looked at this. This again is the pre-application. The notice of hearing, is there a notice to abutting neighbors, or is it just put in the
No.
for a COA?
No. Just goes in the paper.
Okay, cool. So I'll delete that comment. Delete.
Go back to page 7. Sorry.
Sorry?
What?
Go back to page 7 if you would.
Back to page 7. Yes.
Applications.
Yes.
It says, see historic district regulations and procedures for additional information. Well, this is the historic district regulations and procedures section.
That's why I deleted it.
Okay, done. Good work, Larry. Good work.
Oh, and this is sorry, that's a little pet peeve of mine from school. I tried to, as I saw like little grammar things, I tried to change them. So like
Yep.
spaces
between commas and stuff.
Yeah. I don't know what other, I'm just scrolling through because I don't remember.
Yep.
Oh, so Rosina brought this up, the update on the maps.
Yeah.
She said there was a bit of confusion on what was the boundary for the district on Beach Road.
Yes, the GIS map is it's not as accurate as the map in the town hall.
So Fairfield has a GIS on their website, don't they?
Yeah,
So-
yeah, and that's what I was looking at the GIS map when
Oh,
this
okay.
happened, and then there's a hand drawn map in town hall that's more precise. For some reason,
So
the GIS map isn't nearly as accurate. It's just a reference, and you can't really. I mean, it's accurate enough, but if you're trying to, if you're looking at the boundary and whether something is, how close it is to the boundary, then you're. I know there's one property that in the Old Post Road area that had a pool put in, and they were claiming that it was outside of the Historic District Commission and the property, the district boundary, like went through their property, but on the GIS map, the pool would be in the Historic District Commission, and on the town map, it's outside. That's how it's like 20 feet or something was the difference. So
okay. So it wasn't within the historic district.
it wasn't, no.
Yeah, that's when the whole meets and bounds thing becomes really important.
Yeah, yeah.
That's so bizarre. Did their property did they absorb another parcel into the property? It was just how it was drawn?
No, it's just how it was
That's so
drawn.
weird. That is
It's
so
basically
weird.
Yeah,
how the original historic district was determined, that it was most of the houses on Old Post Road, they don't cover the entire lot. They just cover up to a certain point.
That's so weird. I've never heard of that happening. That is bizarre. Okay. That's good for me to know because I did not know that. All right. So
Yeah, I mean,
Rosina
I have
said
them.
that the map should be reviewed.
Yeah, I have can I share my screen for a second?
Oh, sure. How do
Sure.
I just stop share?
Uh,
You're sharing. How do I stop? Stop sharing. The big orange button, I guess.
yeah, so here's this is the property right here. See this red dashed line?
That's so weird. Why did they do
And
that?
perhaps this map needs to be included in the handbook
Yes.
rather than the little
Yeah, well-
computerized maps that we have.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to get it in there, but this is like on the mounted on a wall in town hall. It's not like you can take it down and get it copied or something. You try and take a picture of
I
it.
think I have a
You can
I
take a
have a
positive
PDF.
picture of it.
Take a picture.
But
of it.
also, the other people that should have a copy is the state. So we could reach out to the State Historic Preservation Office. They should have a copy as well.
Okay. Or you can
But
share your
otherwise,
screen.
we can take a picture and just a high-res picture and pop it in. Do you want me to reshare my
Yeah, it's better.
screen?
Yes, please.
There we go. Okay, so the maps. Da-da-da-da-da. What is this? I think most of the rest of the stuff is just me making comments or taking out random R's. Ice House, 18th century.
Yeah, and I think for the most part, when it talks about the Old Post Road District, and I'm sure there's stuff to clean up in there, but
Yeah.
like that stuff isn't as critical as the when we start getting into like site issues, I guess it's not the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, site issues is the first.
Oh, that was one thing that I kind of put in throughout the handbook. There was, oh, here's another one from Jim. There was a couple of sections where I think we were talking about sight lines, and it says if viewable from the public street. And so I altered that phrase to be public streetway or place, which is the exact phrasing that's in the CGS.
Okay.
Just because there are random public walkways and things that might cut through historic districts, either one day or
Yeah,
presently,
no,
that
it should
counts.
definitely say,
But yeah, the sightline thing is there's been a couple of applications that have come before the HDC that I'm not sure if they're visible from a public way, street, or place, and it just seems like it's a waste of everyone's time, particularly the homeowner, to go through the process of COA if
yeah,
it can't be seen.
I agree.
Okay, so on page 59, Jim asked for reconsideration of the inappropriateness of Belgian blocks because maritime quarry ballast stones could also be classified as a Belgian block.
I think
I
they're
think it just needs
more
a
cobbled.
definition there.
Sorry, Jim?
I think it just needs a definition.
Oh, okay.
More, yeah, more defined definition on what the Belgian block that is inappropriate, because they're cobbles that look very similar to Belgian block, which we do consider fine.
Well, we have, my wife, when we were building the house, my wife found a bunch of
Jim, you got to speak up. Can't really hear you.
maritime ballast stones being taken up in Philadelphia. She trucked up tens of thousands of them. And these are 18th century maritime ballast stones. We have them used as curbing and as patios, and they're regularly documented antiques. And some people refer to those as Belgian blocks.
I think the Belgian block, well, I know the Belgian block that is considered inappropriate are the the more modern manufactured ones that are
Right,
big
right,
squares with the
Yeah,
sharp
right.
edges. And the color of the stone is different too. I don't think it's indigenous to this area, the granite. So it's like this it's
Yeah.
and I think that's the issue, is the color of the stone and the shape of it.
But our architect referred to these stones that Eileen got as Belgian blocks.
What are they called again?
He
Maritime?
referred to them as Belgian blocks.
Maritime ballast
No,
stone.
Yeah.
Maritime ballast stone?
Yeah, ballast, Ballast. I don't pronounce it well. My husband always tells me he's very precise since he's British. So I drop my T's, make them D's, and he gets mad at me.
So I mean, when I Google maritime ballast stones, I don't get anything that looks like a Belgian block.
That may be because of your visualization of the Belgian block. There's two sides to that. But anyway, I'm just noticing one word here now that I never noticed before. Paths and walks should not be of hard modern materials. That word modern, I think, solves the problem. And I never noticed it before. I've been looking at this for 2 years.
Where are you looking?
Bottom of page 39. And that word modern, I think,
Oh, modern.
saves the day. As you say, a modern, machine-made thing, that is not appropriate. But things that have been lying on the streets of Philadelphia for 200 years would be appropriate.
Well, paths, walks should not be of hard modern materials such as concrete.
Right.
They make I think it's referring to all the the concrete pavers that with all the different shapes and colors they have these days.
Yep.
And it says, but of brick, pebbles, and pea stone, with flagstone popular in the early 20th century Tudor and colonial arrival styles.
should we add, maritime ballast items?
Well, I mean, I think it's like I said, I just Googled it and I came up with like all different looking stones. Some are like
Yeah.
pebbles and some are, rounded. I mean, the maritime stones that I'm familiar with, like if you go to Nantucket, you'll see where they took the ballast out of the ships and they used it to line the streets. And they're cobbled streets. And they're round. They're smaller round stones.
Right. What we
So-
have are not rounded cobblestones. They're rectangular things, rough rectangular things.
Well,
It's something to think about, I guess.
I do-
I don't.
I
can't
do think the
visualize
I-
Jim's stones.
I do think the Belgian block could use some more clarification as to what's inappropriate, because I really do
Yeah.
think it comes down to the color of it and the shape, and because it's the color that's inappropriate, because if you get and this very specific shape of them, and they're all man-made, they've been
Right.
you know what I mean? They've been made to be identical to one another.
Right. These are not identical to one another. What's the word?
Yeah, and that's the difference. That something that looks like it's handmade,
Yeah.
versus machine made. Anyway,
Let's see what else.
so on that page though.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
I have a note from one of the meetings that additional parking for visitors should be something that we include in driveways, aprons, and paths.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not sure what it should say exactly, but I think it needs to be addressed because it seems to be coming up. I mean, it's come up again on this Westway Road project pre-application, where they want to, have some sort of parking in addition to their driveway, so we should, I think, offer some perspective as to what's appropriate and inappropriate for like a pull-off or additional
Okay.
parking on the,
Here's another
Oh.
one. Oh, yes.
I found there's one coming up that we haven't hit already.
so you want to discuss this?
What page you on
I
now?
thought Jim was
Well,
going to bring
sandstone
something
up-
up, so that's why I waited.
What page are we on now?
This is 61.
Yeah, I had something on 61.
Yeah, it was about sandstone or limestone walls or stone walls
Yeah,
with color too
yeah, it said-
uniform.
Sandstone and limestone aren't
walls or
like
stone walls
indigenous
with
to the New
color
England.
too uniform or joints too tight. Pleasingly uniform color and tight wall joints, that seems to me to be good things. I guess
Yeah,
the
but Jim,
point
they're
is
not
where-
historic. It's not historically accurate. Is the issue? It's like they would never have built a wall like that, because you would never find that material, and then you wouldn't build it that way. If you go around and find one wall that's an antique wall that looks anything like that, that's a modern wall, don't you think?
Okay.
Wouldn't you agree with that?
I guess I don't know enough about antique walls. But I hear your point. And I understand the reasoning.
I mean, does anyone else have thoughts on that?
I understand what both of you guys are saying. I think in some parts of the world you do get walls like that historically, but not really in New England. So I think for here, obviously, I don't think it's appropriate. I mean, then again, it might be appropriate if it's a modern house of that period, but I can't think of one example in a historic district here.
Yeah, it's either like a dry stack wall, or it has like the big like macaroni type joints, or but all these modern ones, they have you know, where they're like, if you so the pictures up top aren't showing up for some reason, but you know, these two pictures on top, like they're big round stones, and they're like held in there with cement, you know, but they're meant to look
Right.
like they're dry stacked, but you know,
Well, it's-
They're not like
oh,
that picture's not like those cobblestone bridges from the early 20th century, is it? I haven't seen the picture, so I don't know what it is.
well,
no, I mean it's
Hold
Adam,
on,
I don't know if you've driven past it, but the big house
I'm
up
trying
on
to-
South,
you see that?
Yeah, I can see that. Because there's those bridges from like 1910, 1920, 1915 that have the big cobblestones. They're very round. They're very like that is the period that they were done.
Yeah.
And so in some cases, those might be totally appropriate. If you have like a craftsman style home with foundations that look just like it or what have you, that might be
Right.
appropriate. But I can't, I mean, it's
So
so.
these are for
dependent on what's in the historic
site
district.
these are I mean these are for site walls.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and typically all these, you know, the walls around here were built by farmers originally,
Yeah.
you know, and just stacked from, you know, to define their property or their fields. And, but of course, you know, as they became more modern, but the modern day walls, like the ones that some of these guys are building with, they're just, you know, they look like a stacked wall in a field, except they're held together with all this concrete.
Right.
You know, and gravity wouldn't allow them to you know, support the way they're built. You know,
Yeah.
they use all the concrete to do it.
Yeah.
but how are you going to, how is a homeowner going to document the wall he's going to make? What words are you going to
Usually-
put on a drawing?
Usually
to avoid,
we have them. Jim, usually we have a mock-up done before they build it. Do you hear me?
yeah, I haven't seen
They'll
that.
come in with, like, I mean, in the past they've come in with maybe a sample of the material or a
Right.
picture of what they want, you know, and then we always approve a mock-up before they build the whole wall. But we haven't had a stone wall in a while come through, so.
Right. New owner of big house up on Satsville Hill Road, on the land side, on the east side of Satsville Hill Road, with a very big new wall. I'm trying to think of the name of the formula.
All right.
That's crazy.
Should we move on?
I don't know the number, but it's probably the biggest wall on the east side of Satsville Hill Road, the left driving towards the beach. Very big wall. Janet Ackerley's old house. I'd be hard pressed to say is that too uniform. I mean, it looks lovely, but in terms of historically appropriate, I can't judge it. Okay, I hear what you're saying, and I understand.
All right, so page 62. Jim had a question about open board and rail fences versus split
Again,
rail fences.
I think it might be a definition issue, but I was confused between open board and rail. And the inappropriateness of split rail fences. It's very confusing.
Open board and rail fences. Well, a split rail fence is totally different than an open board fence. Open board fence. I'm sure that
Would illustrate, would two illustrations help?
Yeah, they will.
Darren, Darren, do you see a need here for a photograph or illustration?
For open board, split rail, and rail fences?
Yeah,
I don't think it would hurt.
Adam, what do you think?
I mean, I think everyone knows what a split rail fence is, but I am, what is an open board fence? Is it just like a plank on the face of, is that what an open board fence means? I'm not even sure. Open
I don't know
board
what an
fence
open
means.
board fence is.
They Google.
Oh, open board fence is like a picket fence, except they're flat.
Oh, okay.
So they're flat, wide, vertical
Okay.
boards.
Okay.
And yeah, we've seen those
Or
come
would-
through.
Or would that,
Because
Ronnie
maybe I
Page
just
came
didn't know
through
what they
with
were
one
called.
recently.
would open
Yeah.
board fence be the typical horse country fence, the white fence? Horizontal
No.
boards? No?
No, they're vertical.
Okay.
You could, I mean, they do have horizontal ones too. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, like the
Um,
typical Kentucky horse country landscape. They're all over the place.
I don't think that's very, no, I don't think that's very typical around here.
I've seen them down in Greenwich, up in the back country.
Yeah, in Conyers Farms.
Yes. And further
And see,
north,
I would
too.
say that type of fence would be inappropriate, especially in the village.
Right. Attractive as it is, I hear your point.
Yeah.
All right. Should we move
Yeah.
on or?
Well, do we
Yes,
need,
please.
illustrations at some point?
We have
I think
pictures of stone
illustrations
walls.
wouldn't hurt.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, we could put some fences in there.
on these board fences.
It wouldn't be a bad idea actually to put maybe a picket fence,
Yeah.
And an open board fence and whatever, a couple of these fences might not be a bad idea.
Okay. This was the
one of the things that
contradiction. Oh, sorry.
we should try and include something with gates, about gates and fences, because that came up at
There
one
was
meeting in
one
particular.
about gates. Where was it?
Oops, thank you,
Stone
passed it.
walls, entry gates.
Entry gates. But I think this one, is this oh wait,
About the
Okay.
This is
arbors,
page 61.
basically?
Sorry, Rosina?
Is it about the arbors that are kind of almost everyone's requesting? recently. So
Well, arbors, that's a good idea too. Is to put something in there about arbors. Mm. Because I remember what happened was that there was something about the see, this refers to driveway entry gates. Because the title of that section is stone walls and driveway entry gates and piers. So that entry gates section is referring to that.
Do you have to
so I think we
specify
need
driveway? Can we take out driveway
well,
and just put entry gates and have 2 subsections?
well, I think the only problem is that I think like for instance the gate, you know, we say a gate should be set within the stone wall, not in front or behind. Gate height should be equal or slightly lower than adjacent stone walls. So some of this doesn't apply to like a pedestrian gate, you know,
Right,
a picket
right.
fence, for instance.
We
So I
had
think
an
we
issue
might
coming
just
through.
want to, yeah, exactly. So we might just want to add a section in fences, you know, for gates within fences, and we could have arbors as part of that.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. And then here's that screen planting contradiction that Jim
Yeah,
was
well,
talking about earlier. So that's this section. And now I've totally thrown all the pages off. Here's another contradiction. Same thing. Oh, here I was talking about temporary lighting, and then Rosina said the garden. Perhaps temporary lighting is something to consider. So that goes back to the discussion of temporary and what is temporary? How do we define temporary? And at what point is temporary needing a COA?
Yeah.
Trying to think. Contradiction to the third paragraph on page 2.
Can you go back to 63?
63?
Yeah,
3.
I just had an asterisk on playground, sporting, and entertainment equipment.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is sort of a weird issue, you know. It's recommended that all movable equipment should be stored at a public way when not in use. Okay, I mean, playground, sporting, and entertainment equipment which is non-portable or fixed to the ground, regulated by the street, which includes not limited to. So, I mean, the fact that people have to come in for a swing set, I guess it makes sense because we want to, you know, I guess we can't really say it's inappropriate, but we should have a say as to where it's located.
Yeah. Agree, Adam.
I don't know.
My point on this is saying it's equipment like that. Yeah, it's a strange sentence. There's no verb. Playground, sport equipment, and equipment which is non-portable
Like trampolines?
or fixed to the ground, regulated by the Historic District Commission includes, but there's no regulation of it.
And here's another question: is this even in our purview with respect to the state statutes? It's like
Other
like
HDCs
screening.
do not regulate swing sets.
What's that?
Even if they're permanent?
Define
Well,
permanent. What do you mean? They're in the ground with rebar and are cemented with.
Yeah, there's no foundation.
I
can see like a tennis court. Okay, a tennis court is basically it's fixed in the ground. Tennis courts, whatever, sports courts, tree houses are probably even a tree house is, although it's in a tree, so it's pretty permanent.
It's a structure.
We don't regulate trees. So, I mean, that's another,
Yeah,
And chop the
yeah,
tree
right.
down.
I mean, playhouses is another one, unless they have geothermal heat and, you know, external AC units.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
feel like
know.
this was just a big, somebody decided that they're going to take as much as they could get, and
Yeah.
they put it all in there. So I feel
I
like
just, yeah. I just sometimes get a little bit worried because I mean, houses are for many people their biggest asset. So, you know, there's a point at which certain types of regulation, I'm not sure that I totally agree with. Regulating swing
Yeah.
sets. I don't know I can't think, and I know there are people with permanently installed swing sets, but I don't have a swing set. But if I did, I wouldn't want it permanently installed because at some point my kids won't want to use it anymore.
Yeah,
So
and it'll go
there's-
away.
yeah, and it'll go away.
But yeah, but it's one of those temporary structures like a tent or whatever. That's, I guess, yeah, it's a. I guess one of the questions is what are we overstepping our jurisdiction, or should we be regulating these things?
I feel like that one falls outside our jurisdiction, but again, I would defer to the commission. I mean, swing sets to me kind of is like garden furniture in my head a little bit. So
Yeah.
that's something that I definitely think that there's a line.
Adam, are you
Tennis
on
courts
the,
has to be like permanently installed by a professional. Like that's a different type of thing. Obviously, basketball
Yeah.
courts, all that kind of stuff. Hockey rinks, they have inflatable ones that you can just pop on your lawn and take down. I don't have one, so I don't know how much goes into that, but they're not permanent structures.
we had that case
yeah.
at the house on Harbor Road, right across the street from Perry Green. He installed a bunch of art sculptures, modern sculptures. And
Yeah, they had foundations.
yes, yeah. And
That's different.
but were you on
Permanently installed outdoor artwork.
were you on the commission when that was ruled upon?
Yeah. Or just around the time. I mean, I was there when it
And-
happened. They went to court and lost.
Oh, I'm losing the audio of you
It-
folks.
Was that big
Yeah,
court
Historic
case?
District Commission. Yeah, the Historic District Commission went to court against the homeowners and won. And they had to take the artwork out. So clearly, that's within our jurisdiction. Permanently installed outdoor artwork.
But that's very different than a garden gnome.
Yeah,
Different from the swing set, sure.
I think this just requires discussion with the town attorney again.
Yeah,
and
I
get some
would agree.
clarification on what they think.
I know other HDCs do not regulate swing sets. That's as much as I can offer, and I don't know that we should. But I would, talk to the town attorney personally. Tree houses is a
Yeah.
whole separate question. I have to think about that one.
Yeah, it's funny though, because we can't consider trees. Yet they're pretty
That's the thing.
permanent structure where and then you put a tree house in it.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I mean, outdoor kitchens and entertainment areas, those usually have some sort of gas line or have hard wiring, that kind of stuff. Trampolines is
Yeah, or
another
stone
one to me
bases or
that's like
something.
swing sets.
yeah,
So I'll put a
Okay.
big question here. Serds. Save.
There's a question of degree also, non-portable basketball hoops. At one point, does one of those things become non-portable? When you need a backhoe.
well, you can put you put a you can install a basketball hoop and a little concrete base, so it's permanent. That's what that refers to.
Or can't the water anchored ones where you fill them with the water, that makes them more or less permanent? Anyway,
Okay.
your call.
Well, I mean, if that's the
All right,
case,
yeah.
then mailboxes should be considered because some of them are anchored to the ground with concrete. And others are those raw
Yeah, and I'm not sure.
heavy iron things.
I'm not sure why we don't regulate mailboxes. I guess because they're required, you know,
Well, I mean,
by the government, so we can't really
And-
say.
well, and on
Mail,
my
you know, the
street,
U.S. mail.
they're
the
also
other
within
thing is-
10 feet of public right of way that the town kind of technically owns. So we take
Yeah.
care of it, but it's not our land.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why.
Yeah, maybe.
The other thing is that keeps
Okay.
getting worse. These overhead cable television lines or fiber optic lines, they look like hell. But it's like a floral arrangement right outside the Pequot Yacht Club. There's a big hoop there that's been hanging there going on a year. And it looks like it's terrible. I mean, I wrote a letter. I Googled who does cable in 06890, and they told me this company, Optum, who's the parent company, guy down in Long Island City. I sent him an email. Crickets, nothing. But horrible. You know, I'm reminded of,
we can do that.
I'm reminded of photographs of old New York before they put the power lines underground, where it's like a forest of overhead power lines, like 1890. I just recently read the guy responsible for putting them underground. Anyway,
Another contradiction. Oh, this was something, the paint removal, painting the brick. That was something we all discussed earlier.
we had a case like that on Rose Hill Road. And
Yeah.
Adam
Well,
saved the day.
Well, the paint color is out of HDC jurisdiction. People can
Right.
paint their houses Pepto-Bismol pink if they wanted to. But I think removal, the method of removal of paint is something that certainly is within the HDC jurisdiction. And I copied the CGS section, which talks about this stuff. So just food for thought there.
Yep.
And then this section, Rosina proposed an alternate verbiage, and I
Excuse me.
apparently can't
Excuse
spell.
me a moment.
Yeah. And then this goes back to the painting of brick facades, which I think Rosina had a very good point with. But again, if we talk about painting, we do have to consider somebody coming to us and saying, I want to remove this paint, and the method by which they will remove that paint.
I agree with that, yeah.
Okay.
And I think I quoted, oh no, this was something that was Rosina's. And I think that was it, because I think this is just.
There should be one address at the end that there were some discrepancies.
Oh, okay. Yes, the 101 something, right?
Something like that.
110, 101, something like that. And I don't see it. I know what you're talking about, but I don't see it. And if I missed it, I'm sorry. That was my fault.
Okay.
Oh, here it is. Yeah, here it is. 1529
Yep.
to 1520. And
Exactly.
I made the change. I just I guess I did it. Because that was, there it is, Brunson Road.
Yep.
Um,
And
I-
we had to add, the church, I think we need to add.
Yeah, do we have the updated statutes?
Church to historic properties or a national register type thing?
Yeah. Historic properties. Description of historic, hang on.
So basically, the
Mhm.
appendix was
Is this-
updated.
Which church is this? Is this not Trinity, right? It's the other one. It's the one you wrote,
Yeah.
right, Christina?
Yes, yes.
So Tungus Hill.
I have it in my.
So kind of
There's also, there's
Page
Ermine Street.
81 or something like that, yeah,
Trinity St. Michael's.
That- exactly.
Yeah. I have, so Thomas Jennings. I mean, I have a bunch more that you don't. Yours ends at 449. Mill Plain Road.
49. Oh, no,
Mm.
Timothy St. Michael's is on here. It's 554 Tungus Hill Road. This was added.
Okay, I did add that, yeah. But yeah, I wasn't sure if you, because I have been making changes, you know, just corrections to some of the spelling and stuff like that and adding things.
Okay.
1520 Bronson Road, Smallpox, oh, the Ogden House. Okay. Anything else?
I think that was it.
I have one more point. Shutters.
Sure.
Do we want to legislate or prohibit static shutters?
Well, we do have a section on shutters that's,
It doesn't say if they have to work or not. If they have to be closed.
they don't have to work. It says they
Is
need
that honest?
to,
Page 69.
says
Yeah.
the height of shutters, blinds must fit within the window frame and be wide enough so that when closed, they meet in the center.
But is that architecturally honest
What do you mean?
to have just static shutters?
I mean, a lot of old houses didn't have shutters originally. I mean, my house had shutters when we bought it, but it never would have had shutters originally.
Right.
I think it
fine,
depends
but
on the house.
I'm saying I have no problem with no shutters, and I have no problem with usable shutters. What I have a problem with aesthetically is static shutters that are just there because you can nail them to the wall. What purpose are those?
They don't, they're decorative. They're decorative, but here's the thing. I mean, what happened at Old South, that was, I mean, you know, they applied the shutter flat on the side of the house, outside of the casing. So not only are they, you know, face screwed to the side of the house, they're positioned such that they don't even look like they're real. Because if you close them, there'd be a big gap in the middle.
Right.
So, I mean, I think as long as they look like they're operable and they look real, then we shouldn't have an issue
But they're
with
not.
it. Whether they operate or not is sort of irrelevant. But they should look like they're operable.
Yeah.
Whether that requires
And I
changes or not, I mean.
I came
Yeah.
in late, but did you guys discuss any solar to add to the handbook?
I mentioned
No,
it,
we
but
haven't.
the state statutes are pretty clear that they cannot be denied unless they are detrimental to the structure itself. pretty
Okay.
much. We can certainly, I don't think it would be a bad thing to put that in the handbook since that is a hot discussion item. And I think
Yeah.
it would be good just to copy and paste what the state statute says about it because it's pretty unequivocal.
Yeah.
Where would you
Yeah,
want to
because
put
more people are going to start requesting solar.
Yeah.
I don't know where it should go. I mean, it's either,
By the roof?
Maybe. Or just under COAs, what needs a COA? How is
yeah,
it?
that might make more sense because, you know, solar panels can be installed on the ground. They could be site installed or roof installed.
Yeah.
Soon they're coming out with
Although
films
more-
that you put on windows.
More people are going to request them for the roof, though. So,
Oh, the
Yeah,
roofing
yeah.
tile ones? Or
Yeah.
you mean the panels, the big panels?
both of them. So,
Yeah. The roofing tile ones are kind of, I think, a little bit of a harder sell because they're not aesthetically, they don't look aesthetically like anything you would see on a historic house.
no.
Yeah, I mean, the
panels.
last one that came through with the Tesla shingles, I mean, my biggest issue is that most of them were like plastic or metal with
Yeah.
rubber on them or something like that. The infills were terrible. You know?
They're not historically appropriate.
That house up,
Yeah.
that house up in Weston, I drove up there and it did not, it looked, it was quite a distance from the road, but it did not look offensive to me. Did you look at that, Adam?
The one in
Yeah, I
Westport?
did, but it was different. It was different than what was being proposed. I mean,
Yes,
Um,
yes.
it wasn't the same. I mean,
Yeah.
so
No, but
So the state statutes say, sorry, I'm looking. It's hard for me to look on my phone.
And we have the whole presentation. I must have it somewhere that Mary gave to us regarding the solar.
the Tesla guy?
Yeah. I thought I put it in here, but I guess I didn't. Oh, here it is. Considerations in determining approach. If the commission determines that the proposed direction.
Yep. Perfect.
shall Consider. Hi, Callum. Thought it was more unequivocal that you couldn't really say no to them unless they were really. Oh, here. No application for a certificate of appropriateness for an exterior architectural feature such as a solar energy system designed for the utilization of renewable resources shall be denied unless the commission finds that the feature cannot be installed without substantially impairing the historic character and appearance.
yeah, and I think it's pretty easy to determine, you know, to say that certain solar installations detract from the, you know, historic fabric of the house.
And substantially too.
Yeah,
I've messed this whole thing up.
I mean, it's tricky. The only one that's come through so far that's been remotely appropriate is the one on Harbor Road where it's on basically a flat roof,
A mansard roof, yeah.
you know?
Yeah, you couldn't see it, yeah.
Yeah, couldn't see it. Okay, well, I think this has been productive.
This is driving me crazy, all of this.
What's that?
All of these spacing issues.
Oh, I know.
I thought I caught them
You
all.
could spend, no.
This
Whoever
is
put this
something-
together initially just did not have a space.
Yeah, it can be.
Where did you get a soft copy of that, David? Aaron?
Sorry?
Where did you get a soft copy of the handbook?
I think I downloaded it online, and then I have this program that allows me to edit PDFs.
Okay. Nice.
Some sneaky. All right. Is there anything else?
This isn't a Word document? It is a Word document.
That it is now because I saved it as one.
Oh,
But
okay.
that's part of the reason why all of this is such a mess, because
Well,
when
not
we
necessarily.
changed-
I don't think anyway. Because I have a Word document and it's similar. And the formatting is funny. So whoever formatted it is pretty creative.
well, that's something that's not too bad to fix. Like all of this is just
Yeah.
maddening.
It's just time consuming. So.
Yeah. Okay, well, if
So,
so what's the
what's-
next step?
That's what I was going to ask. I think we need to put together like proposed version of this based on what we discussed.
Okay.
And then have another, and then go through it again and and decide whether it's good, make more changes if necessary.
Okay.
And eventually we'll be able to, vote on it in the meeting. I'll have to make some phone call to the attorney and get some answers on. Seems like screening is the biggest issue, screening in the sports equipment.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear what they say because the attorneys in other places have, I know what they say, but I wouldn't.
And he may say it's not a big. I'm guessing he's going to say it's not a big deal. It's like you guys can,
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I know in other places the screening is landscaping and the HDC has no jurisdiction over that. So it would be just interesting which direction and under what statute to hear how that gets worked.
With the screening and then the pre-meeting thing. I think that would be time well spent.
And what? Sorry, Jim? I missed that last part.
Pre-meeting.
The pre-meeting session.
Oh, the pre-application meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you
And Darren, if you
go ahead, Adam.
sorry, Darren, if you want someone to work on a section, you know what I mean, just delegate to,
Okay.
you can throw it out to the people who are here or the whole commission for that matter. Just send out an email saying we need to do, we need someone to take a look at this and write something up, so that we can consider it, because we talked about these things, but we didn't necessarily come up with exactly how to deal with it.
Right.
So, like
Well,
for
and
instance, the
we need
fences,
to fit-
we need.
That first page,
Go ahead.
Margaret, is still on the cover.
Yeah, I've changed that. I have a different cover for 2021.
Just slide myself right in there.
There you go.
And then it's
Yeah.
Alyssa
Yeah, let's
Stack. Thank you.
then we have to add Margaret down here because I think she was part of the handbook. Yeah, she definitely was.
Is that MAN?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right,
Okay.
I will work on this as much as possible. As I said, my exhibit's opening on Friday, so I just need to live through that. And if you guys want to come and see it, it opens on Friday. And then
Where is it?
it's the Columbia Records exhibit at Fairfield Museum. I curated it, so it opens
okay.
on Friday at 5:30.
Awesome. Great.
And then after that, I'll get stuck in and do as much as I can. I'll probably ask for help because if I have to do the annual report for the HDC, that will take some time. And that is very urgent because we need to get it in before a certain period of time.
Okay.
Which we have time. It's September 30th. We need to get it in October 1st. But I'll probably ask for help. And Rosina, if you wouldn't mind helping me, there was a couple of parts where you proposed revisions. If you, like you had written
Okay.
long revisions, if you could have a look at those, that would be absolutely awesome. And then
Okay.
Adam, since you know a lot more about fences than I do, if you could have a look at that
Okay.
section, please.
Yep.
And then I'll go through, I guess, just to start. I'll double check the CGS style stuff to start, just to make sure that some of the phrasing is in compliance with the state statutes like public way, street or place, that kind of stuff. And some of the other things, I'll propose something for like earthwork and oh, that was one section we should talk about, is the section about fines. I've put in what CGS has to say, but that's something that we probably should look at specific language.
Okay.
I can propose something for that too. That's not a problem.
Okay. Great.
So we'll start there, and then when you hear back from the town attorney, could you let me know and I can put in whatever needs to be put in.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. So I think
I
that's
will.
it on my end, at least.
Okay.
And the 2020 should
Anyone
change
else?
to 2021. So at the beginning.
Would be a good revision that I obviously missed.
Sheila said that one. So yes.
Yeah, I actually have a cover that's different, like a separate
Okay.
file with a cover that gets
So
updated.
is some of the stuff changed in your version from what I'm working on?
No,
No. Okay.
no,
All
I
right.
haven't changed it. But I mean, I guess to a point that you made a while ago, the book should probably have the date of when it was revised, or at least maybe on here put something like, okay, I could say 2021, but the year that it was revised, so that it's clear, when this was revised, because you assumed it was revised in last year, when in fact it's been years. It's probably like 2013 or something, whenever it was.
Right.
It really hasn't been revised.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says first edition 1990, but that's not accurate, because I mean maybe it is, but it wasn't complete. It wasn't nearly as complete as it is today. Because when I joined the commission back in God knows when, 15 years ago, it was there was no real book.
Oh, okay.
So we created it, and this is it.
Okay. All right. Well,
So,
that's something we can certainly overhaul.
Yeah.
At some
Okay.
point. Oh, Roswell Barrett. I
All
didn't
right.
even notice his name there. Okay. So I'll work on this as much as I can, and then let me know if there's anything else that comes up.
Thank you, Karen.
Sure.
Sounds good. Can I get a
Thank
motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
I'll second it, yes.
Rosina seconds, all in favor?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
very
Adam.
much.
Bye-bye.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
You
Yep.
too.
You too.